Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. Coming with the True Boxing podcast. This is episode 14. I got my man back, Melly Mel. Been a couple episodes since me and Melly talked, but how you doing, Mel?
Good.
Right on, man. I can barely hear you there, Mel. You might want to get a little closer to your microphone there.
I bet, yeah, I've been good.
Right on, man. Cool. So, yeah, guys, wanted to jump on last week. Apologies for that. We had just a couple setbacks that caused us to not do last week's episode. I was trying to get my guy Duran on with me and Melly, but, couldn't get a hold of the guy. So, we're going to get rolling, just me and Mel again. We're going to kick it off, though. I know everybody wants us to talk about Spence and Crawford. I get it. But we're going to have to wait because a few days before Spence and Crawford, we had Inoue, the monster, battled Stephen Fulton Jr. for the unified 122-pound title. Wow, what a performance. But I'm going to start off with my man, Melly. What'd you think about that performance by Inoue, bro?
I mean, after that performance right there, I'm not going to lie. After that performance right there, I was like, yeah, Inoue won the all-time. He probably won the best of these. Like, I'm not really surprised he beat Fulton. It was how easy he made Fulton look.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Oh, go ahead, man. Yeah, you go ahead and finish.
Cause I'm gonna tell you though, the biggest thing though that I really feel made Schoolboy the most was I don't think he expected Inoue to be that fast and Inoue defense to be that good.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I totally agree. I felt like,
I think he felt Inoue with all power.
Yeah, I think he thought Inoue was just going to bull rush him and be kind of that Mexican style with him. But Inoue showed that he's got just a shitload of tools in his arsenal, man. And that jab to the body, he started throwing that jab to the body right in that first round, and it would it was just a stinging jab, and that's the punch at the end. It was the jab to the body and then the straight right hand that put Fulton down. So I mean, Inoue just looked amazing, bro. I mean, he really, I got him number 2 pound for pound now, but it's really 1A and 1B now between him and Crawford, bro. That was that was a masterful performance.
See, when it comes to the pound for pound list, I'm not gonna lie. When it comes to the pound for pound list, I feel like the debate is about who is 3 through 10 because I feel like after last week 1 and 2 is locked.
Yeah, I think
I don't know who 1 and 2 is.
Oh yeah, no question. Now it's Crawford and Inoue. It really is. There's no doubt that it comes down to those two guys. But just how easily Inoue broke him down, man, was just. I mean, it was just I just didn't see him doing that. Stephen Fulton was bigger. Stephen Fulton's a good fighter, and Inoue, but he had the home field advantage and he went out there and just dominated. And man, what a performance, bro. I mean, seriously, that was just that was a fantastic performance. So all that being said, let's start with Fulton, man. What do you think he's doing next?
I think he's going to 126 next. I think he should go to 126 next. And let's see. I think Figueroa is supposed to face Ray Vargas for the belt. I think he can come in, get him a good comeback fight, and probably fight the winner of that.
Yeah, I see that too. I really don't think Fulton has anything left to do at 122. That's meaningful unless he wants to wait around for the undisputed fight and then fight for a vacant belt against like Luis Nery or something. But I just think he's got bigger fights and more opportunities at 126. And, Brandon Figueroa is going to want to get that revenge on him, bro. He's going to want that fight. So yeah, I think that's probably the best option for him also.
Hey, I'm not going to lie. Watching this Figueroa fight and watching the Inoue fight, the power between Fig and Inoue is not even on the same level because Fulton was eating Figueroa punches, and every punch Inoue hit him with, you could tell he didn't want to get hit by it no more.
Yeah, big time. Inoue's got some insane power, and it seems like the higher he's getting, the more he's carrying his power up. So, it's also timing. It's also, like I said, the key punch of that fight with Fulton was the jab to the body, bro. The jab to
That
the body, he was landing it from round one, and it was right to the midsection. So it was really throwing Fulton off because it was hurting him. It was like a hook to the body, bro. It really was, but it was a jab. And like I
and
said,
then
that jab to the body, that last sequence, that jab to the body in the straight right hand is what put Fulton down to begin with. So
the body jab. Another thing the body jab did, it never let Fulton get in a rhythm. Fulton could
absolutely.
never, but the body jab constantly made him move.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then
Yeah. You could
the
tell
thing I
Fulton got to a point where he didn't know what to do. He really didn't know what to do, you know?
and the thing I was telling people too about that fight too that people probably didn't notice was that was the first time Fulton had been in a fight where he wasn't the superior counterpuncher.
Yeah. But
Every
that's the
other fight,
thing. That's the thing I think everybody thought he was going to be. I think that was the biggest surprise of the fight is everybody thought he had all these different advantages over Inoue because Inoue had never fought a guy like Fulton. You know what I mean? And I think that's
yeah,
what
I
meant
know.
that's what was surprising.
And he took all like by round four, he had completely took away any all the Fulton to it. By round four, he had completely took it all away.
Yeah. Yeah. So just a great performance, man. That was great to see. It looks like Inoue and Tapolis for undisputed. I think they originally said November. I wouldn't be surprised if it lands on like New Year's Eve or that week because that's when a lot of Japanese fights happen, big fights happen. Do you think Tapolis has any chance against Inoue?
Now, I think anyway, definitely is going to beat him, but I'm going to give to probably a small, I'll give him a chance because I considered MJ to be the number two guy at the division. He did beat MJ, so that lets me know he got some credibility to him. But I just think anyway is on an all time great level.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think he's got a very minor chance. I really think it was more with MJ. I think MJ was overlooking Tapolis, and it took him too long to get started because once MJ got started in the second half of the fight, he was really dominating. But Tapolis was staying in those rounds. You know what I'm saying? He was keeping the rounds close because he decided to box instead of mix it up with MJ
Hey,
and I thought that really is what won him that fight, man. That was a close fight. It was a good one, but Tapolis really earned that victory, you know?
and then I seen anyway his team was saying he might stay at 122. Fight Casemiro, fight Luis Neri. Then you still got people like Reese Alim. You got MJ still, so it's still some good fights in that division. If anyway, I really want to because I know Bob Aaron said anyway he probably gonna have anyway come to the U.S. next year. So I say why not do anyway? I say anyway become undisputed. Why not do anyway versus Luis Neri in the U.S. or do anyway
Yeah.
versus Castro?
I think if he makes one defense, it'll be against Neri or Casimero, and then that gives Luis Alberto Lopez and Robeisy Ramirez a chance to unify in the first half of the year. You know what I mean?
Hey,
Because
hey,
because anyway, that's an easy fight to make because they're both with top rank. You know. So, all right. At 122. Since we're talking about Neri and me and you haven't been on since last year, Melly, bro, we got to talk about Neri and Havanasian, dude. Tell me you saw that fight in February.
fight. That was a crazy fight.
That
Really,
was a great fight.
it's really. I'm not gonna lie. You really pay attention. There's been some big things happening at 122. Reese
Yeah.
Aline got up. Azet and Louise O'Neill with the war. MJ lost. Fulton getting. It's been a lot of stuff really going on at 122.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we weren't expecting. Like we knew Inoue was moving up, but even Inoue surprised us by going straight after Fulton. I don't think anybody saw that coming, bro. Remember me and you talked before the end of the year, and we were like,
This
he's probably yeah. We nobody thought he was going to go straight after Fulton, bro. And that to me shows the real of what me and you always talking about. Bro. He's daring to be great and go after the top guys.
the main reason why me and you felt that fight wasn't going to happen because we didn't think the promotions were actually going to work with each other to make that fight happen.
Well, for me, Melly, it was the promotion, but also the style matchup, bro. I thought Fulton was a bad style matchup for Inoue, you know.
But look though, I'm gonna tell you the fight Bob Aaron really wants to make for Inoue. He really wants Inoue versus Ramirez at 126. That's why he
Oh
put Ramirez.
yeah, dude. But he's got to build Robeisy Ramirez up a little more, bro. Like Robeisy Ramirez, in my opinion, needs to unify against Luis Alberto Lopez before Inoue. That way, he's got a big enough name because I don't think he's there yet.
That's a good idea right there. Let's say I think I think I think if I'm not mistaken, Lopez facing Gonzalez in September, October. You can
Yeah,
do that, and you could do Ramirez versus probably somebody like who at 126. That'd be a good fight. I ain't gonna lie, man. What you do, Robinson Ramirez, put him in another fight. You put him versus Lopez in the unification next year. Anyway, become undisputed. Gets like you said earlier, gets his one title defense in. He meets the winner of that fight at 126.
yeah. Well, we'll talk about 126 a little bit more later because yeah, there's definitely some things. But let's move on, bro, to the biggest fight. I think the fight, Melly, since me and you first started talking, bro, it's the fight we've been wanting to see for years. To me, it was the biggest fight in boxing since Mayweather and Pacquiao. Crawford and Spence, I could not wait to see that fight. And what did that fight mean to you first, bro? Mean to you and the boxing to you, Melly? What did it mean to you, bro? Before the fight, going into it, not after.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Going into it, I felt it was gonna be I had Bud winning, but I thought Bud was gonna win by probably like a majority decision. I thought it was gonna be closer than it was. Now, I thought it was gonna be closer than it was. Then when the fight happened, it was like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, the fight itself, like going into the fight, I was so pumped up that I didn't know what was going to happen. I picked Bud too. I thought he would stop him late or it was going to be a close decision. But I felt like even if he stopped him, it was going to be competitive all the way up until that. And I mean, Bud just, oh my God, he looked amazing, bro. I mean, it was just, he dominated Errol Spence with ease.
I think another thing that made that win so crazier is the fact for Bud, it was almost validation.
Yeah.
The way they've been saying years, he was like, bro, I can beat that dude. I know I can beat that dude, bro.
Yeah.
I've been watching it. I know I can beat him.
Yeah.
And see, I watched that fight. The beginning of the fight, it was the battle of the jab. See, this is the thing people don't understand. Bud is a natural right-handed fighter. So when he goes southpaw, his jab is basically a power punch.
Yep.
So, and you can tell when he would hit Aaron with it. You can tell when Aaron and Bud were fighting who had the more power.
Well, in the second round, when he put him down with the jab, bro, it didn't look like a big time punch, but he timed it so well that Spence was really hurt. You know, you could tell it really stunned him.
This is another thing too. Aaron has never had to fight a counterpuncher that good before.
Ever. Yeah.
Because the thing about Aaron, you see Ugas, you see Danny Garcia, you see Porter. They were top fighters that welterweight, but they fought rough style. So like in Aaron, his style, he's rough. He's gonna bang it out. So he's gonna leave himself open wide open at times.
Yeah.
And you could see Bud was timing them shot perfectly.
I honestly thought Spence's size and power was gonna be a difference on Crawford. And it just wasn't, bro. It just wasn't. Like, it didn't matter, you know? Like, I mean, and Bud just, I mean, honestly, I gave Spence the first round and I thought he was winning the second round before the knockdown. And then I did give him the third round, but it was close. And then after that, Bud just shut him out. But isn't that what Bud does? About the fourth round, he takes over. Every time he fights, it's like he figures you out by the fourth round and dominates you from there, you know?
Bud fights, and it kind of go back to what I used to say about Inoue. Thing about Bud and Inoue. You look at their resume. And like I was telling people, Bud and Inoue was not fighting bombs. Look, they was making dudes look like bombs. It's a big difference.
And Melly, I always say this, bro, in any sport, what are you supposed to do when you fight dudes that aren't on your level, Mel? You're supposed to dominate those teams and those guys, right?
And
And
then
and that's what I'm saying. He wasn't letting anybody get close to him. And people were like, "Oh, well, that guy's not that great a fighter." I'm sorry, Kavaliauskas, the Mean Machine. That dude's got a great amateur record, very solid fighter. You got guys like what's his name, Benavidez, great amateur fighter, good amateur record, a decent fighter. Hadn't beaten big names here at one, in the pros, but these are good fighters that Bud was fighting. They were just more B and C level fighters, but Bud was making them look silly. Bud was dominating these dudes, bro. You know.
You can rewind to 135, 140. Victor Poster and Gamboa was big deals at the time when Bud fought.
Absolutely, dude.
It was considered legit, and he dominated them dudes.
Yeah, and Postal had just beaten Lucas Matisse. He dominated Lucas Matisse. And Postal's still a solid fighter, even though he just lost to Elvis Rodriguez. I mean, that fight with Bud was back in 2016. And Postal just last year was competitive against Gary Antoine Russell, bro.
You know? Almost made a case. Like, and then like, another thing about this fight, too, like I said, I was like, bro, this is why the PBC never wanted Arrow to fight Bud. Arrow wanted to fight Bud, but the PBC did not want Arrow to fight Bud.
Yeah.
Arrow himself admitted he was getting pushed to fight other dudes. He only wanted Bud. The PBC never wanted any of their dudes to fight Bud.
Yeah.
Because it's not a coincidence to me that when Bud and Al was negotiating with each other last year, the best Al could offer was 65-35, no guarantee. But then this year, when Aaron and Bud decide we gonna negotiate with each other directly, they get $10 million guaranteed, walk away with over $25 million. That's not a coincidence, in my opinion.
Well, the PBC obviously started losing money because Arrow was like, I don't want to fight nobody else, and he took all that time off in between fights. He didn't take a tune-up bout like Avanesian did, or like Crawford did against Avanesian when the fight fell through last year. No, Errol wanted to fight Bud only. He didn't want to fight. Even the fight with Keith Thurman, they were supposed to fight, and then it didn't happen.
I did.
Go ahead, Mel. You there?
I find it kind of annoying that right after that fight. Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, go ahead, man. You're good.
Yeah, I find it kind of crazy that after that fight, the first person you hear is Keith Thurman calling for the fight. And it's crazy because when Keith Thurman was the man at 147, he had absolutely no interest in fighting Bud or Arrow.
Yep.
You couldn't even get him to consider fighting those two.
Well, even when he wasn't the man anymore, bro. Even a couple years ago when Bud's contract was coming up with Top Rank, and Keith Thurman was like, "Oh, I'll fight him, but I'll fight him for $10 million." Now you know damn well Keith Thurman wasn't going to get paid $10 million. He knew he wasn't going to get paid $10 million. He priced himself out, but then plays that game of, "Oh, well, I called him out. He didn't want to fight me." Bullshit. You priced yourself out when you called him out. And that's a little game that a lot of guys play, bro.
And that's another thing, too, people also forget. Remember, we talked about this. When Bud first became a free agent after beating Porter, his original plan was he was going to fight Thurman, then he was going to fight Arrow.
Yeah.
But then Thurman started talking, I need 8 months to prepare. I need 8 months, this, that, and the third to prepare. After that, and he went straight into the Arrow negotiation after Arrow fought Ugas.
Thurman's a bullshit artist, bro. He's a bullshit artist. You could tell just from this whole supposed fight with Yordanos Ugas, bro. He agreed to fight Ugas and then kept waiting to see what was going to happen with Bud and Crawford. And look at the fight with Ugas still isn't finalized, bro. And Thurman's been out of the ring for a year and a half this month. It's been a year and a half again. That fool's a joke, dude. Thurman's a joke.
And that's another thing too. With Arrow, Bud, and Virgil are all leaving 147, which means there's more pressure on Thurman to fight Boots.
Yeah,
that's the biggest fight at 147. That's going to be more pressure in the fight booth, and he don't want to fight Boots.
Well, okay, so let's do that after the fight. Well, first let's talk about what Spence said. You know, me and you were texting the other day. You said Spence made no excuses. A lot of guys have said that. He says Bud was the better man. For me, and maybe I'm nitpicking, bro, and I'm fine with that. I feel like he made an excuse without making an excuse, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is before the fight happened, like the week before, he started talking about how he's hoping a rematch takes place at 154. To me, that's saying in a lot of words, if I lose this fight, it's because of the weight drain, and I want the rematch at 154. If he would have waited and said that afterwards, bro, I would have been fine with it. I would have been fine with it. I would have been like, okay, that's fine. He's been making 147 for a while. We all knew he was always a big welterweight. But to say that before the fight, I felt like that was making an excuse without making an excuse. And then to say your timing was off, that pissed me off, the timing thing. You know why, Melly? Because, and I texted you this the other day, he took 16 months off after a car accident between Danny Garcia and Yordenis Ugas, and he dominated Yordenis Ugas, bro, with ease. And I didn't hear shit about his timing when he dominated another fighter. All of a sudden, we're talking about timing going after he loses the Bud. I'm sorry, man. To me, that is an excuse. But go ahead, tell me how you feel.
I just think Errol was in there with a superior fighter.
Yeah. Me too.
I have a question though. Now that, how do you think 147 is about to look?
It depends on what happens, because here's the thing. I'm not 100% sold that Bud is going to 154 yet, and I'm going to tell you why. I think because Tank Davis just called him out, and then there's also Teofimo Lopez sitting at 140. And Lopez, the one thing we do know, he wants those big fights. He might just say, fuck it, go to 147 and fight Bud. And if he loses, he's like, hey, I challenged the best. I fought him. I came up short. And Tank might be the same way, because why doesn't Tank ever want to fight the best guys, Mel? Because in his own weight class, because he's afraid of losing. And I think Tank might be like, fuck it, I'll go fight Bud too, because I got a built-in excuse that I moved up 2 weight classes, lost to the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, and I got nothing to hang my head about. You know, I mean, seriously, I don't think he's 100% done. Now, the Charlo fight, the Zoo fight, they're all there at 154 for Bud. I could see him happening, but I'm not 100% convinced he's moving on. I really don't see him fighting Boots, though, bro. To me, that's high risk, low reward. I'd love to see the fight, but I don't think Boots is on that level where Crawford is right now. That Crawford has to fight him, and he's definitely not ducking him. And if he doesn't fight him, bro, that's my opinion on Bud and what he's doing next.
This is my opinion. I feel like the only way Bud should have to fight Booth is if Bud stayed at 140. Now, Bud stayed at 147, then yeah, I need to see him versus Booth. But if he's like 154, I can't. Okay. Can't.
Do you think Spence should take the rematch next?
What you think? Hey, I really think now at 147, I feel like there needs to be a bigger push now more for Booth versus Stanionis.
Yeah, I think that's the next one. But before we get into 147 and what's going on, what do you think Spence should fight? Do you think Spence should fight Bud next, bro, in a rematch?
I mean, it's the fight that he's gonna make the most money, and so I can believe he's gonna try to make that next.
Hey, Melly, your connection's kind of cutting in and out, bro.
Cause I believe that's the most money both make. I think that's the perfect.
Okay, yeah. I personally, for the money's sake, yeah. But in terms of intelligence and the rest of his career, I think Spence, if he's smart, because he's a big enough name, he should wait on the Bud fight. I think Bud, because Spence gave him the fight to begin with, I think Bud will
I think
fight
the
him.
rematch should happen next. I think the rematch
I don't
should
think it
happen.
should happen next. I don't. I think Spence is going to get hurt. He got hurt badly in the fight with Bud.
Yeah, I
I,
think they should rematch next at 154. If both decide to go to 154. If both choose
I think
to
that's the
go to
only. I think
154,
that's going to be Spence's play
I
right there,
think
because it's up
they
to
should run
Spence.
it back.
It's up to Spence. If he wants to fight, it's going
Oh
to
my bad.
happen.
Yeah. If both decide to go to 154, yeah, I think they should run it back.
But that's going to be up to Spence. I think Spence is going to hit up Bud and be like,
If both going
if
to 154.
hey Melly, because you're cutting out, bro. We're kind of running into each other with what we're saying. So I don't know. You might want to check your connection, bro, because you're kind of cutting in and out. You there? Melly, hello? All right, guys. Melly cut out there. We're gonna wait for him to get back on. I'm gonna resend him the invite. Um, Melly, go ahead and accept that invite again, bro. Here you go. Let me see. Melly there? No, he's not there yet. Okay. Hold on, guys. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna hit up Melly again. All right, guys. Well, what we were saying with Bud and Spence, is my personal opinion is Spence shouldn't move to he shouldn't fight Bud next. I think he should move to 154. If that was legitimately an issue for him going up to 154 and it hurt him, then absolutely move to 154. But I honestly believe what I was trying to say is that I believe that Spence and Bud that Bud will definitely fight Spence anytime Spence wants. I think he's super thankful. That's what Bud said after this fight wouldn't have happened if it weren't for you. I think Bud's super thankful for Spence because the fight got made because Spence pushed for it and wouldn't fight anybody else. So I think Bud will return that gratitude. He'll return that. Um, and he'll fight him again. Excuse me. He'll definitely fight him again, in my opinion. Now, I don't think it should happen next. Absolutely not. I think Spence should go test himself at 154 against somebody else. There's plenty of options. The PBC runs 154 for the most part. Move it to 154, fill yourself out. And then maybe the end of next year, him and Bud can happen again. Because again, I think Bud will fight him, especially if Spence moves up and looks fantastic at 154. I think he'll definitely Bud would definitely fight him. But if Spence wants to fight him, I think the only way is he's gonna hit up Bud and be like, "Hey, dude, are you willing to fight me here at 154? Because I'm not gonna do 147. I'm not gonna fight." And Bud, it's gonna be up. It's gonna be in Bud's court once that phone call gets made. Bud will be like, "Well, yeah, I'll fight him." And Bud already said after the fight that he's not opposed to moving to 154 and fighting him. So I really think that's possible. I really think it could happen. And all right, what up, Mel? Mel, you there? Hello?
Yo,
Yeah, what's up, man?
yo.
Your connection was cutting in and out, bro.
Yeah, my phone ain't got too damn hot.
All right.
Yeah,
So anything else you
Yeah.
want to add about Bud and Spence?
So I don't know if Arrow even gonna. I'm gonna say this: if Arrow isn't medically cleared to fight again this year, I would like to see Bud either stay at 147 and fight Boots, or go to 154 and fight Tim Zoo, get the WBO belt, and fight Jamel next year.
Well, I think that's the most likely option. I really don't. I really only think Bud is going to stay at 147 for Lopez, Tank Davis, or maybe Keith Thurman. But I don't think he's going to fight Bud. I mean, Boots. I don't think he's going to fight Boots. I think he'll move to 154. I think Zoo makes a lot of sense. And then Charlo. I really do, because I don't think Charlo's going to beat Canelo. I really don't see it. But we'll get to that in a few minutes. But, yeah, that's what I think he's doing. And I think Spence is going to move to 154 and just try to look good at 154. And I was just saying a few minutes ago, I really believe Bud will give Spence a shot whenever he wants at 154 because Bud really appreciates that Spence made the fight happen between them. So I think Bud's going to return that favor. You there, Melly? Damn. Mel. Melly. You got to fix that connection, homie. I got to remove you again. All right, guys. So, all that being said, we're going to jump into a new subject now. Hopefully, Melly can get back on. I'm going to keep it rolling. We went through the two biggest fights. Melly was on there right almost to the end of Spence and Crawford. We went through the two fights that just happened. All in all, Terrence Bud Crawford is a pound-for-pound king, but he is 1A, 1B with Inoue. And those two guys really proved how good they are and how important they are to boxing right now with their victories, their dominant victories. They left no doubt. And that's what you do to prove that you're pound for pound. You fight the best, and those are all-time great victories. You don't just beat the best. You decisively beat the best. And that's what both those guys did. So my hat's off to both fighters. Big applause. Those are two historic fights for me. And it really was disappointing. So, disappointing, and I'm sorry, it was overwhelming, not disappointing. I'm sorry for saying that. I was super impressed with both guys and what they did and what they accomplished. And the sky's the limit for both guys, in my opinion. They both can go in whatever directions they want. And they're going to do that. There's big fights to be made for both fighters. 147, in my opinion, is going to be wide open now. But Melly touched on it. He said Boots and Stanionis. I think that's the fight that should be made. I think Crawford, you're going to see in the next few months whether he's going to hold on to any of those belts at 154. He might hold on to one or two. But I really think he's not going to fight Stanionis or Boots. And both those guys get upgraded to champ, and both those guys should go and try to unify belts right away to establish the top guy at 147. That's going to be huge. So other than that, yeah, Virgil Ortiz is moving up. Hopefully Ugas and Thurman still fight each other, but man, I have no faith in Keith Thurman. That went from one of my favorite fighters to just a joke, and it's sad to say that. So, it is what it is. But we're going to move on to the biggest fight on the horizon coming up. Undisputed versus undisputed. Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo for the undisputed super middleweight title. September 30th, Showtime pay-per-view. Big fight right here. Canelo and Charlo is just a monumental fight. It really is. People are going to, that you're going to have your criticism. You're going to have people that are criticizing Canelo. Canelo wanted to fight Jermall. Jermall needed more time. So Canelo asked Jermell. And people still want to see Canelo and Benavidez. I do too. But I'm glad that Canelo signed a 3-fight deal. I feel that if he doesn't include Benavidez in his 3-fight deal, which should be September, May of next year, and September of next year, then Canelo is ducking David Benavidez for sure. I absolutely believe that. So Canelo against Charlo, though, for what it is now, that's the fight we know that's happening next. Excuse me. I think Canelo is going to beat Charlo. I think he's going to decisively beat him. But Charlo, you know, he's daring to be great. This is what you do right here. He is the undisputed champ, you know. But once he steps in that ring, once he gets announced and that fight starts, he will no longer be the undisputed champ at 154 because the WBO has already said that Tim Tszyu, the overdue mandatory challenger, is going to be upgraded to full champion once that happens. And there's a chance that the WBC belt goes up for grabs. We just got to see what the rest of the titles do at 154. But 154 has been a good year this year, a good division this year. You know, you had Tim Tszyu really separated himself as the top guy to fight Charlo. And then Brian Mendoza, what a fucking upset over Sebastian Fundora earlier this year. I mean, he was getting dominated in that fight and then just caught him with a wicked combination that put Fundora down. I've been saying it with Fundora. I like Fundora, but I just think the style of fight that he fights, and he really has no choice. His size and length, if he were to stand there and box, nobody would want to fight him. He barely gets guys that want to fight him now. But the fact that he stands there in the pocket, leaves himself open for those shots, eventually it's going to happen. He's going to get caught. He's going to get hurt. He's going to get put down. He's going to get knocked out potentially. Brian Mendoza came out of nowhere and did that. So this division is wide open at 154. There's a lot of good things. I think Erickson Lubin is staying at 154 for a reason. I think he wants to set up those big fights. Tim Tszyu's there. Brian Castaño is still technically there, even though he hasn't returned since the loss to Charlo. Magomed Kurbanov is making a move. He fought this year, got a split decision over Michel Soro. Tony Harrison dropping out, but you got guys like Yoenis Telez, who just destroyed Sergio Garcia in 3 rounds, is making a play. And you got what's the name? Jesus Ramos, who defeated Brian Mendoza in 2021, is still undefeated and still making a name for himself. So this division wide open. I do believe Bud's moving up. I do believe Spence is moving up. I honestly think Thurman might move back up to 154. People forget Thurman started at 154 and then moved down to 147. But I really do see these guys, this division being very good throughout the end of the year, and I do believe Charlo, after a loss to Canelo, is eventually going to come back down to 154. So, but we got to wait and see how that all shakes out. Now, 168, since we're talking about it with Canelo, this is a division that you saw Canelo dominate John Ryder. No shame in that. John Ryder is a good, solid fighter. I hate that people criticized him after and said he was a nobody, like they said going in, because Canelo dominated him. Canelo is one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world. He's a Hall of Famer. And an all-time great. And he dominated a very good fighter in John Ryder. John Ryder's a tough guy. Came up short against one of the best in the world. No shame in that, Other guys, David Benavidez dominated Caleb Plant. That was impressive. Caleb Plant trying to get back in the mix. Did everybody see Caleb Plant slap the shit out of Jamal Charlo? I hope Jamal Charlo is stupid enough to take the fight with Plant now. I hope he is. Mr. Personal Problems. I'm sorry. I know people got personal issues. I really do. I'm definitely one that understands that. But don't sit here and talk shit about you want this fight, you want that fight, and then not fight for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously, you didn't fight at all? You can't fight at all with all your personal shit going on? Okay. If I'm wrong about that, then I'm wrong about that. I'll take it. But I am so tired of hearing Charlo talk and run his mouth when his brother fights the best and beats the best. Shut the fuck up and get back in the ring. That's my answer to Jamal Charlo, and go after the guys at 168 and earn your fight with Canelo, because he almost got lucky enough without having to earn it. So and he might still get lucky enough. All he has to do is come back and get a win before the end of the year, and Canelo's probably going to fight him next in May or something. I hope not, but that looks like what's going to happen. But all that being said, this division is definitely looking good. Munguia and Derevyanchenko was a great fight. You can argue that for fight of the year with with the Neri and Havanassian fight. David Morrell sitting there looking pretty, dominated the Brazilian Yamaguchi Falcao. He dominated him in one round to stay undefeated and keep the WBA regular belt intact. And David Benavidez, right now they're talking about him and Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade next. If that's the fight, Boo Boo is finally going to fight somebody to prove if he deserves Canelo. And Benavidez with a win over Andrade, he'll lock down that he deserves Canelo without question. He deserves him now. Absolutely. But if he dominates Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade next, if he beats him, which I think he will, then he deserves that fight. Absolutely deserves that fight without question. So that's what I got to say on that at 168. So now, just to run through all the other divisions that we really didn't touch on, I'm just going to touch on them real quick. 126 featherweight, Inoue is on his way, in my opinion. Within the next year, I believe Inoue is going to be fighting here at 126 featherweight. The guys there right now, you got some exciting fights on the radar. You got Luis Alberto Lopez is taking on Joet Gonzalez. It's going to be an all Mexican slugfest right there in September. Winner's probably going to be facing Robeisy Ramirez in the first half of the year to determine who gets a crack at Inoue when Inoue debuts at 126. That's my opinion. Lee Wood is fighting Josh Warrington in an all UK battle. Probably both guys, probably the winner's last fight at 126, because you got that undefeated fighter is mandated to fight the winner. I believe he's like 12-0 with 11 knockouts or 11-0 with 10 knockouts, something like that. Mauricio Lara, what a disappointment this year. Came out, got a monster win over Lee Wood when he was behind on the scorecards, knocked him out, then misses weight. Man, that was disappointing, man. I'm a big fan of Mauricio Lara. I hope he rebounds at either 126 or 130. But what a disappointment. He finally got his crack. He won the belt, had an automatic rematch, and then misses weight by a lot of pounds. And then fights for the vacant belt. Looks like he doesn't give a shit and loses a one-sided decision to Lee Wood. That was disappointing. Really disappointing. Hopefully he bounces back. Ray Vargas and Brandon Figueroa likely on the going to happen before the end of the year. Hopefully that gets announced. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a good fight right there. And that, for the most part, is what's going on. Luis Lopez, the knockout over Michael Conlon was a great one in May. And then Robeisy Ramirez got a tougher than expected fight with Isaac Dogbe. So want to show some love to Dogbe and show some love to Lopez for their victories. Now 130. This division is so damn wide open, but we have a war brewing this Saturday, Emmanuel Navarrete and Oscar Valdez. If you guys aren't tuning in for this fight, you're going to miss out on potentially your next great Mexican rivalry, because I think if this fight's close, we absolutely are going to see a rematch, and it could be good. You have Navarrete. He's got the height and reach. He's that sneaky, in my opinion, very comparable to Juan Manuel Marquez type style. And then you got Valdez, who's just a grinder. Valdez knows how to fight, and he's not going to give up. He's going to come straight at Navarrete, and I think that's going to be a very, very good fight this weekend, August 12th. I'm picking Navarrete, but it's going to be good. Do not sleep on this. Watch this fight. Going to be very good. Joe Cordina, bounced back impressively and defeated Shavkat Rakhimov, split decision to regain the IBF title. Cordina's probably going to fight Zelfa Barrett next, which I personally think is a mistake. I think Zelfa Barrett's very good, but Cordina is one of those guys that's just going to say fuck it and go after it. Winner of that fight could fight the winner of Lee Wood and Josh Warrington at 126. So a lot of big UK fights happening right there. Shaki Foster, big win over Ray Vargas, came in the underdog. I picked him to win this fight as the underdog, and he got the victory. So congrats to him. That was an impressive performance by him. And he's pushing for a bigger fight. moving forward. He's trying to get something. It looks like a mandatory title defense against Rocky Hernandez for Foster is probably going to happen next. And then hopefully, if he gets through that, which should be something bigger. Hector Luis Garcia, your WBA champion, probably fighting Lamont Roach Jr. I know they're about to go to a purse bid to see when that fight's going to take place. That should be good. I think it's going to be good, but I got Garcia in that one, but we'll see. Shavkat Rakimov, no hanging his head after that loss. He just got to get back in the mix, and he'll be a mandatory challenger again. And then we just got to see what some of these challengers down at the bottom are going to do. Zelfa Barrett, Lamont Roach, probably getting opportunities at titles next. And Mark Magsayo is going to make his splash at 130 after back-to-back losses. But back-to-back losses where he was definitely in those fights and fought his ass off, and now he's probably coming back down to make some noise. 135. I have to touch on Haney and Lomachenko. I'm deeply disappointed that Lomachenko didn't get that victory because he should have. He outworked Devin Haney, outlanded him, outworked him. He deserved that decision. Devin Haney walked away with the win. It was close, but I just didn't feel Devin Haney did enough to win that fight. I don't believe he deserved it, but he got the victory. He's still undisputed champ. I'm disappointed he's not giving him a rematch, but he is holding on to his belts for the time being. He's moving up to 140 and fighting Regis Prograis. We'll get into that in a little bit. What are the rest of the guys doing? Well, Tank Davis, after his win over Ryan Garcia, isn't doing anything. He's probably going to fight Isaac Cruz again, which I don't know. If that's the best he can do, I think it's sad, but it is what it is. At least Cruz is a top 10 guy, and their first fight was close. But capitalizing off of the pay-per-view revenue and the big fight that was against Ryan Garcia, I think Tank Davis is missing the boat. He can fight whoever he wants, and he's missing the boat, and that means he's ducking people. So that's sad, but whatever. I'm tired of dealing with Tank Davis and who he doesn't want to fight, really. The WBC says it's close to announcing Shakur Stevenson and Vasily Lomachenko for the vacant WBC title. Does Lomachenko want this fight? Here's why that fight should happen next. Because the winner should absolutely get Devin Haney. Devin Haney shouldn't shy away from the winner of that fight. Absolutely not at all. He should fight the winner of that fight, no doubt. He loses to Prograis, move back down to 135 and fight him. He beats Prograis, move back down to 135 and fight him. Now, of course, there's a potential Teofimo Lopez showdown, which might be just as big. But this is a big fight if it happens. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Hopefully, we're going to see a big one for either guy next. Kambosos didn't look good against Maxie Hughes, whatever. He's still in the mix. Isaac Cruz, like I said, got a close kind of whatever split decision over Giovanni Cabrera. You're likely going to see, in my opinion, you're going to see Cruz and Tank Davis next in a rematch. Jermaine Ortiz missed weight earlier this year. Raymond Muratalla stopped Jeremiah Nakathila in 2 rounds impressively. He's returning actually on the this weekend on a Navarrete undercard, and Muratalla's made his splash. He's there. William Cepeda's waited. He's fighting Mercito Gesta in September. Gesta upset Jojo Diaz, and Cepeda beat Jojo Diaz last year, so that should be decent. Gustavo Lemos, haven't heard anything on him. He's the IBF's number 1 contender. I think he's waiting around to see if the vacant title is going to be on the line, if he's going to get a crack for it. And that's pretty much it at 135. 140. Teofimo Lopez made his splash and made it big, defeating Josh Taylor impressively in June. He flirted with retiring and then just came back and said that he wants to resume his career and keep fighting. The WBO turned down Arnold Barbosa as his mandatory challenger next. Lopez, I think he's going to fight somebody solid next. I really do see that. I could see him fighting Jose Ramirez. I really do think that's a possibility. I do think he's going to fight somebody legit and solid. I think Ramirez is probably the likely favorite, but we just got to wait and see what happens. But Lopez was so impressive in that win over Josh Taylor. That was big. Josh Taylor, he can flirt with moving to 147, but the bigger fights for him are here at 140, no doubt. If he can still make the weight, stay here, in my opinion. That's what he should do, coming off that loss. Regis Prograis kind of had a lackluster performance against, what was his name, Zodia, but he's getting a crack at Haney, and I think he's much better than his last performance, guys. And I'm very interested in seeing that fight with Haney because Prograis has been wanting a big fight for a while now. So we'll see what happens. Jack Catterall just announced that he's fighting Jorge Linares in September, that or October. That is a big deal for Catterall. It's going to be a good name on his resume. And Linares, this is his last dance. Excuse me. Linares has had a few last dances, in my opinion, but he continues to want to fight the best. He's a game veteran. Outside of a couple times, in his career, he does not go down easy. So I'm looking forward to seeing Catterall and Linares. I think is going to be, it's a good opportunity. I think Catterall's gonna blitz him though and get him out of there and push forward towards something bigger. Sandor Martin, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a crack at somebody big, but you're probably gonna have to wait around now for a little bit. Maybe secure his mandatory shot because he is the WBC's number one contender. You got Gary Antoine Russell's returning this month to compete. Subriel Matias is probably going to make a mandatory next. His fight's going to purse bid. He'll make a mandatory next. He's an exciting fighter. Arnold Barbosa Jr. beat Jose Pedraza this year. Very much so looking forward to seeing what he does next. If Lopez doesn't fight Jose Ramirez, I think Barbosa and Ramirez are going to fight to determine mandatory. So he's going to have a big fight next, in my opinion, Barbosa. Ryan Garcia coming off that loss to Tank. Depends on what he wants to do. If Ryan wants to come back and shake it off and take on somebody decent, he could pretty much do whatever he wants. I say shake off the rust at least and come back and fight somebody solid. But we'll see. We'll see what he wants to do. Rolly Romero is a joke. He wasn't winning that fight against Barroso. He did hurt Barroso, and then the fight got stopped prematurely. We don't know if he was going to win or lose. He is technically your WBA champion, but now he's talking about moving to 147. This dude's a star fucker. He just wants to fight in the bigger fights and think he's a bigger name instead of establishing himself. He's supposed to fight O'Hara Davies next at 140. Not sure what he's going to do. Him and Ryan Garcia have been talking mad shit to each other about fighting. So we'll see what happens there. And I do want to say, I do believe Garcia, even though he agreed to it, he got fucked over having to make 2 weight cuts, and I thought that was bullshit, but it is what it is. Okay, 160 middleweight. Man, what a depleted division for such a respected division in my eyes. I'm really disappointed that middleweight isn't better. Triple G gave up both his belts now. Not sure what he's going to do, but if he does return, he says he's likely going to come back and fight John Ryder at 168. I feel like Triple G competed against Canelo at 168, and he's like, what's the point in fighting guys that aren't that big of names at 160 at my age? So I think if Triple G comes back, it's going to be at 168. Then you got Adames, Carlos Adames. He's the interim champion in the WBC, defeated Julian J. Rock Williams, competitive bout. Carlos Adames is not the blitzing guy that everybody thinks he is. He's not this overwhelming guy. So I wasn't surprised that the fight with J-Rock was competitive, but he did overwhelm him in the end. I think he was going to stop him no matter what the stoppage ended up being. But I think he's going to get upgraded to WBC champion, and then it's going to just depend on who they can put in front of him. They have a litany of options at 154 that can move up. This division is wide open for the taking, so we'll see. Janabek Alam Kanuli. If Bob Arum can work some magic, he should set him up with Vicente Gualtieri, the new IBF champion, to unify belts. But the IBF has a stern thing of once a vacant title gets decided, the next highest guy gets a shot at the title. So we'll see what shakes out there. But Janabek, Kazakh style, wants to prove himself, and I think going after him would be the best thing. Liam Smith and Chris Eubank Jr. First fight, upset, TKO victory for Liam Smith. Surprised a lot of people. The rematch is happening on September 2nd. I'm going to favor Liam Smith in this one now. I do think Chris Eubank could beat him, but I just think Liam Smith's better now. I really do. I thought it was close before, and I edged Eubank, and then Liam Smith stopped him. I'm not sure how much into it Eubank is, but Eubank, his name it's gonna be better going into a big fight with Conor Benn if he gets the victory. So that's probably the most significant fight at middleweight right now is that rematch between Smith and Eubank. Vicente Gualtieri upset Esquiva Falchao. It was in Galtieri's backyard. It was a close decision. So I'm not sure if a rematch is going to be ordered. It was a mandatory fight, so most of the time rematches are not in a contract. Maybe the IBF will order it. Maybe they won't. We'll see. Not really much else going on at middleweight other than that. We already talked about 168. We're going to move up to 175 now. Arthur Beterbiev, disappointing. He had a great fight with Anthony Yard. Yard really proved how good he is. He was winning on the scorecards. He seemed like he kind of knocked Beterbiev back a couple times, stunned him in January, but Beterbiev weathered the storm, kept grinding, and stopped Anthony Yard in the 8th round to retain his unified title. He was supposed to fight Callum Smith next in a mandatory defense, but he got some kind of infection in his mouth. They're talking about possibly November, the 2 rematch, but we don't know. It's kind of up in the air, so we'll see. Dimitri Bivol, disappointing. He went from having the best year of his career, decisively beating Canelo, dominating Gilberto Ramirez, looking like the Canelo rematch was going to happen, but then Canelo didn't really want to fight Bivol again. I don't think he ever really did. Canelo straight up offered Bivol the same money, and I'm a Canelo fan, and I'm telling you right now, I was very disappointed that he offered him the same amount of money as the first fight and then tried to claim and say he's not a big name. Might not be a big name, and Canelo deserves a lion's share of the pot. But you're telling me Bivol, after he decisively defeated you, doesn't deserve at least double what he made the first time, which would have been $10 million? And then Bivol said he would come down to 168 and fight Canelo for undisputed there because he wanted all the belts. And Canelo still said, no, we'll fight at 175. I don't want anybody to make excuses. Bivol wasn't making excuses. Bivol wanted Canelo at 168. He wanted those other belts. I don't think Canelo ever wanted to fight him. And now Bivol hasn't fought since Gilberto Ramirez last November. He's hoping to get a fight in the fall sometime, but very disappointed that this dude just is not getting the opportunities that he deserves. Definitely a shame. Hopefully we hear something soon. Callum Smith's going to get the crack at Beterbiev, and it's going to be a great fight, in my opinion, once it happens. Way better than people expect it to be. Yard and Joe Smith, I'm disappointed they're not fighting each other, but they're not. Hopefully, we know Yard's going to come back and fight in September. Hopefully, Joe Smith shakes off the rust and gets back in the ring. Michael Eifert, upset, and is the mandatory IBF challenger, beating John Pascal. He's next up for Beterbiev. So, or Smith, once that happens. So Michael Eifert's throwing his name in the pot. Joshua Buatsi is going to fight Dan Aziz in a WBA final eliminator to determine the mandatory for what's his name. And that's pretty much what I got at light heavy. Cruiserweight. Jaio Pataya likely going to fight Richard Riakporhe next in a mandatory fight. Maris Bradis was supposed to return to action. He did not. Canceled at the last minute. Badu Jack, big time upset. Much props to Badu Jack for the victory over Lunga Makabu. He is your new WBC cruiserweight champ, and he put his foot down to Canelo, saying he ain't coming all the way down to 180 and having a rehydration clause too. He said, go fight whoever you want. I got to give props to Badu Jack. There's rumors that he's moving up and fighting for that WBC Bridgerweight belt. That's between cruiserweight and heavyweight. Only the WBC sanctions that title, but we don't know for sure. Chris Billum-Smith, big upset victory. Congrats to him over Lawrence Okolie. Dominated him. 4 knockdowns. Grabbed the WBO belt. There's been talks about him and Okolie in a rematch. There's also been talks of him and of Chris Billum-Smith facing, who is it? The veteran Mateusz Masternak next. So we'll see. As I said, Riakporhe should get the crack at Jaio Pataya in a mandatory for the IBF. And other than that, nothing really much going on in the cruiserweight division. So we'll close it out with the heavyweights. Tyson Fury, disappointed. He said, I'm disappointed. He said he was going to fight 3 times this year. I at least wanted him to fight Usyk. That fight fell apart. Now he's fighting Francis Ngannou, the former UFC heavyweight champion, on October 28th. I don't like it. I get that Fury wants those big-time paydays and big-time fights, but I don't like it at all. To me, this is Mayweather and McGregor, which I thought was a joke. I think this is a joke. I'm glad the WBC title's not on the line, but I think it's a waste of time for the number 1 heavyweight in the world. So disappointed in that. Hopefully the Usyk undisputed title clash happens next. Usyk is fighting Daniel Dubois August 26th on ESPN. Going to be a good fight. Be prepared for that. It's going to be good as long as it lasts. But I think Usyk's going to break down Dubois and stop him. But hey, don't count Dubois out. Dubois can hit. He's a real heavyweight, and it could be interesting. So it could be good. August 26th, ESPN. Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz still doing the dance around each other. They were supposed to fight earlier in the year. They didn't. There's still talks that fight's going to happen. Hopefully it does. We'll see. Anthony Joshua beat Jermaine Franklin earlier this year. Was supposed to fight Dillian White this weekend on August 12th. Dillian White supposedly tested positive for some banned substance that he's denying that happened. And now that fight's been scratched. So Joshua's scrambling to try to find an opponent. Hopefully, I would like to see him take on Derek Chisora because Chisora's fighting on the undercard anyways, and it's a good late replacement, and they've never fought. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Zhilei Zhang upset Joe Joyce back in April, I believe. Captured the WBO interim title, stopped Joe Joyce, the hottest heavyweight, in my opinion, at the time. He stopped him dead in his tracks. Now the rematch is going to happen. Zhang, his name is Zhang, was going to fight Fury, and Joe Joyce just said, no, I'm invoking my rematch clause because I want the Fury fight at some point. So these guys are fighting in September. I think it's 50-50, could go either way. I'm going to favor probably Joyce, but again, Zhang dominated him in that first fight. Maybe Joyce was overlooking him. We'll see. But in September 23rd, Zhang and Joyce 2 is going to happen. Filip Hrgovic, the IBF mandatory challenger, he's fighting this weekend against Dennis McKeon. Of course, maybe outside chance. Joshua takes a chance against him, but I doubt he will. We talked about Joe Joyce, talked about Andy Ruiz. And that's pretty much, and we talked about Daniel Dubois and Dillian White. So that's pretty much what we got in the heavyweight division. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'm sorry, Melly cut out halfway through. He says he texted me, said his connection was acting crazy. We've had that issue before. But I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, man. I pour my heart and soul into it. I'm really into it. I was pissed last week when we couldn't do it. I really was. I apologize for that. I'm going to try to get on more frequently and talk about this stuff. Hopefully Melly, hopefully Duran are a little bit more committed to it and can get on, and all that kind of stuff. Melly finding a better connection. Duran, hey, man, hear me out if you're listening to this, bro. You can talk about this stuff. You did well last time. That's the most views I ever had on a podcast. You need to come in and touch some base and get up in here. Straight up. I'm calling you out, bro, in a good way. You did great last time, And Melly, we got to get a better connection, homie. Got to get a better connection. I need you on this with me. But I appreciate Melly. I appreciate Duran the Man for the last 2 podcasts. My channel has grown significantly in the past month and a half. I appreciate all the support, and I'm just trying to build it up some more. So you guys, much love. My heart goes out. Keep watching the videos, and I'll try to get another podcast going sometime soon, maybe in the next 2 weeks, maybe in the next month, but I'll definitely announce it ahead of time and put a date on it so you guys could check it out. But that's it. That's what I got. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.